And welcome back to centralcoastradio.com. Well, one of the big films to get released this week, and we're kind of lucky that it's being released here in Australia because it's just been pushed back in the United States because of the strike, is Gran Turismo, the movie that sounds like it is based on a video game, which to a certain point is correct and to a certain point is incorrect. Basically, this movie, which is from director Neil Blomkamp, who's brought us great films like District 9 and Chappie in the past, um, follows the career and life of Jan Mardenborough, played by Archie Madekwe. Now, if you're wondering who Jan Mardenborough is, he is a car racer who started his career as a Sims games player, with Gran Turismo being his chosen game. He was chosen as part of a special pathway that was set up by Danny Moore, played by Orlando Bloom in the film, in which the best Sims drivers in the world would be recruited by the Nissan racing team, Nismo, to become actual car racers. And it was a little bit of an experiment to see if it would actually work. But Jan was one of the drivers selected for the program, and he was trained under the watchful eye of ex-car racer Jack Salter, played by David Harbour. And that's basically the story at hand that you see here. Jan trying to break away from a family that doesn't really believe in him, especially his soccer playing dad, Steve, played by Digimon Hunsu, and trying to prove himself to the world that he can make it as a car racer and break away from the life that he is in. Now, I know how I feel about this film, but let's kick it off with you, Kyle. How did you feel about Gran Turismo, especially considering you're a gamer as well?
Yeah, that's I am a gamer, and Gran Turismo is I think I believe one of them is actually the highest selling game on PlayStation on one of the consoles. It was like it's a ridiculously hugely successful game franchise, and I admit I've never actually played it.
Yeah.
It's one that I played. I only remember playing it one time, and that one time was, I think, the fifth installment. And I remember that one there being kind of a bit of a controversy because people were complaining that due to licensing issues, they weren't actually allowed to show damage on the cars at the time. So
Yeah.
it was kind of kind of a weak little thing there. But no, I thought it was weird, like how much they were really hyping up this movie based on the whole true story thing. It's literally part of the title, based on a true story. Like I guess the way they're seeing it is that uh everybody knows that this is a video game movie, but they want to really sell the idea that this is also based on a true story. The plot of this movie kind of follows along something that, for the most part, really happened. And but even then, despite that, I was still really surprised at the end to see just how much of it was actually really was based on a real guy, and that certain elements about the main character that I actually thought might have been fabricated, in fact, weren't. Like not everything is real, but a lot of it seems to be. And I know some of it there's a bit of a puff to it, and certain things didn't happen in the certain orders, or they happened a few years into his career, or whatever. But I was surprised by just how much of a true story this movie actually focuses on. Um, for me, I think it was kind of a movie with a bit of a rocky start at the beginning, at least for the first 10 or 15 minutes in particular. It kind of felt very artificial in its writing. And I think just how over the it kind of felt like a really over the top promotion for Gran Turismo, the video game. Just the reverence that characters are talking about this game series, it just seemed like it was almost a parody. And I know it's a huge franchise, and to be honest, some of this is actually also coming from it was coming from the Orlando Bloom character, and he was intentionally over the top selling the game because he was trying to pitch the real world gimmick to Nissan. But yeah, but then it kind of kept going. yeah, just some of the setups to characters I didn't really like at the start. Even like the David Harbour character, I thought it was just such a prick at the start of the movie. But eventually, like it kind of all fell into its own, and I actually really enjoyed it. Um, yeah, the it, there was even at the start the way that the main character is when he's playing the game, they really they do this kind of thing where like a car's building itself around him, like he's almost like he's imagining himself actually driving it. But I think that actually kind of hurt early on the first time that you actually saw him in a racing car for the first time, because it wasn't as much of a big impact. Like, oh, he's actually behind a real racing car now. It's not just him sitting with a controller in his room. But so yeah, just that first half I was kind of let down by. But yeah, the second half of the film just was so much better. The I think the racing got a lot better. How it was filmed got a lot more intense. I know this is a movie that was optimized for IMAX. Sadly, in Australia, we won't. I don't believe we're getting it in on IMAX screens. They're pretty much all booked out with Oppenheimer. But yeah, like it was a movie that I actually think it was a really good one to see on such a massive screen. And I think Neil Blomkamp, he still has kind of that little bit of the even though he's making this huge budget movie, he's a director that's kind of known for what he did with say like District 9, where it was kind of like a lower budgeted film that looked really amazing. So like this film, it has a lot of drone shots and such in this film, which I thought kind of got a bit tiring after a while. Like I just thought that it was a bit it kind of cheapened the movie a bit. Like it didn't it I don't know, drone to me in movies, drone shots, they look like drone shots. They look like somebody's just chucked a camera on top of a, $200 drone and that's it. It doesn't have the same kind of impact as like a lot of other aerial shots and stuff. But no, the story, the characters, all that, like it was a weird one because yeah, I really didn't like the first half of the movie, but I really grew to really enjoy it the second half. Even the relationship between David Harbour and Jan, the main character. The only character I think that really suffered was Orlando Bloom's character. I don't think there was enough of a real human side to him in the film. He's so much like the pitch man, and then he's like the company man that's more worried about like PR and how things will look rather than actually the human side of it or things like that. So I would have liked to have seen just a little bit more of a human side from Orlando Bloom's character, just because I think it kind of, well, David Harbour's character basically pulled a 180 from being this complete prick to being a character they actually really like. But at least for me, with Orlando Bloom, he never really pulled out of that nosedive. But yeah, so other than that, like I really enjoyed it.
And Lee, what did you think of Gran Turismo?
This movie surprised me. I enjoyed watching the preview, so I was quite excited about the movie already. But I think the way that it was filmed, the way that it was written, the imagery, like all the visuals, were even better than I could have thought. I enjoyed the entire movie. I think and I enjoyed all the characterization of each person. I thought the performances, yeah, David Harbour, of course. I mean, he's one of my favorites anyway. But this was a different kind of film that that we saw him in, and I kind of liked how protective he was of not putting just anyone behind a wheel, and why he was so firm about, he had a belief in racing, and he understood the danger of racing, and he kept strong and firm on the reasons why he didn't want to just put anyone behind a wheel. And I think over the movie, you see the personal side of why that is. And yeah, I don't want to spoil anything. Anyone who knows the story, that's fine. But I did not know the story. I did not know this story. And so for me, it was all a bit of a surprise. There were scenes where I was holding my breath and you're not sure if someone's going to live or die. And they were very dramatic scenes. And yeah, I mean, there is death in the movie. I won't say who or how it happened. There are people who are injured. There are people who are just enjoying the whole experience. You've got family dynamics in here too. You've got parents that maybe don't want their son in this field or don't believe that it's a great way to have a career or don't have belief in their kids. So there's that aspect as well. There's determination. And I really love the visuals of going from a video game and how they pull the car apart and you see all these bits of a car kind of in the air and then it all comes together like a jigsaw. The imagery was, I thought, amazing. I liked that. I loved that at a certain point in the film, you see how they actually filmed the cars and then the detail of that to get it on the screen for the gaming. So all the camera work that happens, and I guess understanding that it took 10 years, I think, for this game to be developed because the developer was such a perfectionist that the car had to move so well on the screen. It had to seem like it had to be as good as real driving.
One of the things I didn't actually mention in that game is that real life car races. So if you've got a car racer who's driving supercars here in Australia and they go overseas for an international race, they will actually use Gran Turismo to get a feel for that track because it is so realistic. So yeah, this game and all of the ones that have followed afterwards is quite often used by car racing teams to train drivers who haven't used a track before. So
yeah, so I thought that was really great. And you know, I think it really showed with Orlando Bloom's character Danny that the pressure is on your shoulders. You're a salesman, you're pitching this, and if it goes wrong, that's all on you. And it's not just a little bit of money, this is big money, but it's also people's lives. So I feel like it showed well why you didn't really see the personal side of who he was. It was more the business side, and I think that was done purposely to show you that this was everything and this weight was really on his shoulders.
I got the feeling that he didn't have a life outside of work.
Everything was his work. But I love the performances of the cast, and I think Archie Madekwe, is that how you pronounce it? Did a really great job as well as being a young person, a gamer, transitioning to a real driver and all the dynamics around him of what the pressures of his family, but then the love of gaming overtook everything. And he was ready to risk everything for that sport. And I loved his competitor, Joshua Stradowski, which was the character of Nicholas Kappa. I thought he did a brilliant job too. And you know, it kept it intense. It kept it as that, the very competitive one driver being a bit hateful and spiteful and jealous, I guess, towards a newcomer.
I'm not sure about you, Kyle, but I liked that rivalry was there, but they didn't go over the top, because I thought in the last few Creed films they've really done that, where there's a rivalry, but
antagonism kind of thing.
Whereas with this, it was just that Kappa's the kind of driver that Jack Sinclair doesn't like, Slater doesn't like, because he's got there via money. He hasn't gone through the lower classes to get there. and he's just smug. Like he's one of those drivers that kind of has the attitude, well, I'm here, I deserve to be here, and he doesn't want to give anybody time of day.
Yeah.
I really thought that was well done with the screenwriting, that they didn't have to do that whole thing like they do with the Creed movies, where it's like the guy's rocking up at his house and knocking on the door, like, I'm going to come for your family kind of thing. That was more about, yeah, you know, he is an asshole. Like you can tell
Yeah.
that by the way he acts. You don't have to have a whole page of dialogue with him
He
doing
drives golden cars. Like
Yeah.
it's such like idolatry pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, I like that too.
Yep. And I reckon if you're gonna ever have a mentor or coach, David Harbour's character of Jack was brilliant. Like he took on a father figure really,
He's
as
the
well
Gordon
as a
Bombay of
coach.
car racing.
But yeah, I don't know. I just love David Harbour's performances in nearly anything, and he did not disappoint, I can tell you.
Yeah, I think I came at this film a little bit differently to you two, because I have played Gran Turismo. Like years ago, I used to play it all the time. I used to love to go into career mode and start off as a lowly driver and then make my way up to the top teams. And it's kind of an interesting game because it's one of those games that a lot of people play it that aren't gamers. I remember one Christmas, I took my console and I took Gran Turismo up to your parents' place, Lee, and I took it up for the kids to play. And all of the adults started playing it, and some of them were people that would never play games before but love car racing. So they all wanted to have a go at it. But I wasn't sure what to expect from this film. I knew the story about Jan, but I thought realistically that they would kind of use his story as a rough basis and kind of make this more about a gamer who now car races. And I was kind of imagining like Fast and Furious stunts, and I think I was kind of imagining like a Tokyo Drift kind of story. I was not expecting a film that looked at things like the psyche of a car racer. How does a car racer cope the first time they have a severe accident? Like, how do they get back in the car? It kind of reminded me of that film Rush, that looked at that rivalry between Hunt and Lauda in Formula One racing. And I think that's the bit that really surprised me with this film. I didn't expect for it to become a film where characterization was such an important part of the film, because yeah, like I said before, this ends up becoming a film that looks at the psyche of a car racer. What does it take to make somebody want to do this sport where you're basically putting your life in danger every time you're out on the track? I don't want to go into spoiler territory, but I thought one of the most touching scenes in this film was watching Jan's mother's reaction to his first accident. But like that to me, that made set this movie apart from being just another popcorn kind of movie. Like it had this characterization in there, and you're barracking for him as well. They've made the character a character that you want to see succeed. And like Kyle said, even David Harbour's character Jack, they make him really hard at the start, and you realize that he's that way because of what life has dealt him. There's a reason why he's that way. And to be honest, he only takes the job with Nissan because he's made unemployed and he needs a job. So to see his character develop as well, I think that was kind of rare. Like as I said before, you think of movies like The Mighty Ducks with Gordon Bombay, where the coach goes on a journey with the team. That's what you see here as well. So yeah, I think this film really, really surprised me, especially because Neil Blomkamp has made a couple of bad films recently. So yeah, to see him hit back like this, and I fully know now why Sony is pushing the true story part, because I think they're trying to point out that this is a biography of two men's life. It's not just your get in a car and watch it squeal around the streets kind of film. So yeah, I think they've kind of put themselves in a bit of a hard basket there. They've named the film after the game, people are going into it like I was expecting a Tokyo Drift film, but it's more than that. So yeah, I kind of understand why they've had to do that. I don't know if I agree with putting it in the title of the film, but yeah, I fully understand why they've done that. I guess that leads to what are we all going to give this film? Kyle, what are you going to give it out of 5?
I'm gonna give this 4 out of 5. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it was a very interesting way to take a basically to make a video game movie in a way it's for it to be so self-referential. It's not, as you say, it's not just a like a Fast and Furious kind of story or anything like that. It's something that actually references the video game and the importance of it in a very meta way, and I really enjoyed that. So yeah, 4 out of 5 for me.
Lee, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give it 5 out of 5. I loved it. I want to see it again, and I want to take friends.
I'm going to give it 4 out of 5. And I wanted to ask you guys too. Archie Medekwe as an actor, has he kind of proven with this movie that he can carry a blockbuster?
Well,
I think so.
I guess it'll take a few bigger names. I know he was still he's still credited as third behind Orlando Bloom and David Harbour.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's I could see him definitely getting another big shot
Yeah.
after this for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it for our discussion on Gran Turismo. 4 out of 5 from me, 4 out of 5 from Kyle, and a 5 out of 5 from Lee. It is a general release film, so it should be showing at a cinema near you. Check your local cinema guide and head along and check out Gran Turismo because it is one of the most surprising films of this year. You're on centralcoastradio.com.